Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. We are going to teach you how to turn this into this. Here's the tools you're going to need for the job. You're going to need a little cutting board. This is a memory board. Don't ask why it's pink, because I'm not going to answer. You cut into it with a knife, and you're going to use an X-Acto knife. Here's what an X-Acto knife looks like. One of these suckers. Again, don't ask why it's pink. Remember guys, this is a video tutorial on how to make a wooden model boat for beginners. It's pink because it's for beginners, guys. You get the cheapest one money can buy. So first you're going to start with the wood pieces. Oh well, actually you'll also need some wax paper for, well, the glue when you glue stuff, and some wood glue. Elmer's wood glue is sufficient, that'll work. You'll need some of these pens. Pens, they'll work too. They're metal pens. They're just small like this, like little nails, about that big, and they just stick in the board like so. Really easy to do. It helps control the wood. Just get pens, guys, and I'll show you later in the video what they're for. And also these are very useful. They are tweezers, but the reverse. They call them cross-action tweezers. So when you squeeze, they open. When you release, they close. So pretty cool for like holding little pieces of wood and being able to stabilize them. So like this is how it works, just like that. Pretty cool. But yeah, all right, so let's get into the video, guys, and we'll start with the first step. All right, so the first step, let's space these suckers out. Let's put our rods up here for later. These are instructions. You're gonna lay the wax paper over this. This is how you're going to be able to make your sails. This is basically your template. So we'll go ahead and start with the instruction. This is how you're going to assemble it. So it's pretty easy to do. They show you how to do it. Well, they do make some that are more complicated, but this is the sail size. It says 1-to-1 ratio, so what that means is you can just pop it right on top of this. So you're literally going to lay it down and lay your pieces of wood just like across it. And these pieces right here, they have them laser cut, so they'd come out pretty easy, but sometimes they don't fully laser cut. As you can see, this one's kind of like still in there. What you do is you take your X-Acto knife and just make sure all the pieces are cut in there, all around the wood. You can cut it on the table too. You don't have to do it like this. I'm just doing it like this so you guys can see. But basically what you're going to do is get all these pieces out and set them to the side, and make sure you organize them, because yeah, if you disorganize them you're going to be toast. So you see how this has a number 2 on it. You're going to look at the instructions and you see how this one's number 1. We aren't going to mess with this one right now. This is A1. We aren't doing A1. So this one's our number 2 sheet. So we need to look for the section that's going to be our number 2 sheet. So there's our A1. So those are the A1 pieces. The A1 pieces are going to be the section that reads on the A1. So if you see, this one has like 1 mm, then it has F here, A1, A1, A1. So we need to find all the A1 pieces, put those together. All the additional pieces, we need to put those together. Alright, so let's get into it, guys. just as maybe every other rib. Just whatever works. Alright, so the other camera ran out, but working on getting it charging, so I was still working on it while we're waiting. So you see we had a couple different steps. We had to put the C part, which is, yeah, you guys can see how the shiny glue attached. That's a separate piece. So it looks kind of like that, a long piece. And it goes right in there, and you use clothespins to seal them, and then you use the small little thumb pins to push it through. And we'll go into the next step, but first we need to let this dry for like 3-4 hours. Maybe on the safe side I'd give it at least 8, because this is like, it's got a lot of moving parts to it, and it's got a lot of stress on it, and it needs to dry up. All right, we'll get back into it. guys, that's how you make a model boat from scratch, I guess. Well, the model kit, the wooden pieces. Takes a long time just so you guys can see the full size of it. Yeah, so fun making it. Takes a couple days, but thanks for watching, guys. And if you like this video, hit that like button. And if you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe. Thanks for watching.